Earlier, I spoke with the brother of Israel's current president and the former Israeli ambassador to the United States, Michael Herzog, about Netanyahu's visit and more. Ambassador Herzog, thank you so much for joining us. In the wake of his meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu today, President Trump signaled his preference is to continue trying to work out a deal with Iran. Ideally, what would that look like to Israel? Or are we at a point where there's perhaps no preference for conversation with Iran?
So Israelis understand that diplomacy is the first preference of President Trump and respect it. From Israeli standpoint, any deal with Iran should be a strong one because Israel believes that the U.S. has strong cards. Iran is as weak as we can remember. And Israel would like to see any deal effectively block Iran's pathway to a nuclear bomb. That means shipping out all the 60% enriched uranium, no enrichment on Iranian soil, and intrusive inspection. But on top of that, Israel also would like to see the inclusion of the Iranian missile program in any deal, mainly limitations on the number and on the range of Iranian missiles who could threaten Israel and Europe. And to the extent that that is not included in a deal, and President Trump, by the way, made reference to this when he talked about the deal, but if it is not included, at a minimum, Israel would like to maintain its freedom of action against that emerging threat, because we see Iran really speeding up its missile program, developing it to a point where they can overwhelm Israeli defenses. So that's a focal point as far as Israel is concerned. I believe the chances for a deal are not very high because it is difficult to see Iran conceding to the American terms. But I think President Trump is correct in giving it a chance.
When you, by the way, for the uninitiated or those that don't follow this as closely, when you talk about the missile program, you're talking about the ballistic missile program, not a nuclear missile program.
I'm talking about the ballistic missile program, which is the main focus for Iran since the war, and they've been really building up their arsenal in a very dangerous way.
Right. President Trump has also pushed back against the idea of Israel expanding its presence in the West Bank. Wouldn't that expansion jeopardize the ceasefire with Gaza anyway? Why continue pushing for that, especially if the president continues signaling the United States couldn't support it?
So, as you know, there are pressures from within the Israeli government there have been pressures to formally annex the West Bank. And President Trump pushed back against it at the time, so the government refrained from doing that. But the recent decisions taken by the cabinet are kind of a de facto annexation of some parts of the West Bank. And I don't know if this came up in the conversation between the two leaders, but if it did, I assume that President Trump articulated his opposition to those measures.
Later this month, there's expected to be a meeting here in Washington for this so-called Gaza Board of Peace. We still don't know everyone attending. We still don't entirely understand the scope of what this board is going to be in regards to Gaza, let alone to the rest of the world, because the president has said he could see it one day dealing with other global crises. Do you have confidence in the president leading this group and in it potentially being effective at all?
So Israel formally joined the Board of Peace. The Prime Minister signed up to it. But here in Israel, most people are skeptical that this could effectively lead to the disarmament of Hamas and demilitarization of Gaza. It is still not clear how this is going to come about, because no external force is going to confront Hamas and disarm Hamas, and Hamas is not going to disarm voluntarily. I understand that the idea is to push Hamas through diplomacy to agree to some kind of disarmament, but I think most Israelis feel uncomfortable with that. So we just have to wait and see. All the institutions which are supposed to be established by the 20-point Trump plan are now only in the budding. So it'll take some time before we have effective forces on the ground. In the meantime, Hamas controls about 50% of Gaza in a very effective way.
Right. Well, Ambassador Herzog, we could go on for a very long time. Unfortunately, we cannot today, but we appreciate your perspective. We know you'll be back to talk about us, to speak with us as events continue to unfold. Thanks again for your time.
With pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Take care.